700 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. Airoutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to Airoutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Monday, September 3rd. It is Labor Day and start of a brand new week. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Our phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments and questions. And in hour number 3 today, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us because she will not be available on Friday. And tomorrow, in our 3rd hour, we're going to have Dr. Kevin Barrett, who's going to be talking about the upcoming anniversary of 9/11. So we're going to have that. Anyway, it's Labor Day. And like so many of our holidays, it has become a label, not to mention a marketing hook. And it was rather amazing to see the crowds just going into the shopping malls. In fact, it was almost as bad as the run-up to Hurricane Lane. And it's almost like we're conditioned to this new religion. Oh, it's a holiday, must spend money. And so that was kind of weird, but obviously everything's closed today. And people are, if they're not listening to this show, they're down at the beach or they're at the barbecue and they're taking it easy. But it's worth taking a moment to stop and remember what Labor Day actually means. Because there was a time in this country when workers were very much abused. Unsafe working conditions, long hours, low-paid child labor, and the labor unions were able to organize and push back on some of this abusive behavior. Now, ironically enough, it was the rise of the Soviet Union that helped propel the labor movement in this country, because the owners of the large corporations and factories realized that if there could be a workers' revolt in Russia, there could be a workers' revolt here. And so they backed off and they made some concessions. Unfortunately, a lot of these labor gains seem to be eroding away here. Wages and salaries are being crushed back down. Workplace safety isn't what it used to be. But it is worth remembering why we have a Labor Day. And as I've always said, labor unions are a mixed blessing. Obviously, they do serve a purpose to protect workers from corporate abuse, but labor unions themselves can become corrupted. They're involved in politics, organized crime, and they can get very protectionist. And just to be personally honest about it, the unions were my nemesis during my entire time in Hollywood. And it was just one fight after the other, after the other, after the other, as we tried to bring in this new technology of computer animation. Also, over this last weekend, the beatification of John McCain continued, and they finally laid him to rest yesterday, but it just went on and on and on. And social media is being flooded with all this stuff. They're trying to basically rewrite the history of John McCain. And over at Russia Today, they had an article saying McCain's funeral was a disgusting exercise in historical revisionism, to basically rewrite his history as they want it to be in the history books. But we already know there was a dark side to John McCain. There was the Keating 5 scandal. There was his recording of tapes for the North Vietnamese, which was an act of treason. It turned out the claim that he was tortured was a lie. The injuries that he suffered were from ejecting from his aircraft. But he was the son of an admiral, and the North Vietnamese took very good care of him because he was the son of an admiral, and they realized what a propaganda coup that was actually going to be. So, moving on here into other parts. Another article on the same topic here. This was from Lou Rockwell, discussing about using political corpses as propaganda props. And a lot of people were taken aback by how many people who were speaking at the memorial took the opportunity to go after Trump. And that's not what memorials are supposed to be for. So they really laid it on here. 3 state funerals in Phoenix, D.C., and Annapolis. And the corporate media is just out there, oh, what a wonderful, hero that he was, and so forth and so on here. A lot of people are coming on out and saying, no, he wasn't a good guy. Cynthia McKinney is out there saying, my thoughts on John McCain. John McCain is a traitor to the USA. And she is just one voice of many that are standing, including a lot of the POWs and veterans that knew John McCain, crewed with him, served with him, and saw what it was really like. And they describe him as this spoiled brat kid. No matter what he did, no matter how many aircraft he crashed, nothing happened to him because he was the son of an admiral. And let us not lose sight of the fact that John McCain's father, Admiral John McCain, was in charge of the cover-up of Israel's attack on the USS Liberty. So I think the truth is going to prevail. I think the days when corporate media and the government could basically sanitize history are pretty much over, because now there is a collective memory for humanity not subject to government censorship, at least for the moment, and that's called the internet here. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Over in Afghanistan, a U.S. service member has been killed in what's being described as an insider attack. One other has been wounded. They're not providing a lot of details, but this is apparently the 6th American to be killed in Afghanistan this year. And the attack occurred in eastern Afghanistan, inside what's called the Resolute Support Mission. So things are not going smoothly up in Afghanistan. Down in Syria, there's a lot of stuff going on here. The Syrian Arab Army repelled an attack by the Lions of the East Army militant group on Palmyra from the direction of the U.S.-occupied area of Al-Tanf. This is coming from the Russian Center for the Reconciliation of Opposing Sides in Syria. And according to the center, 2 militants were killed, 2 others were detained. And the militants' objective was to conduct a series of terrorist attacks in the vicinity of Palmyra and to ensure the passage of the main forces of about 300 militants to capture the city within the next week. Now, pro-U.S. sources are claiming that U.S.-backed forces had repelled an SAA attack on Al-Tanf, but there's no corroborating information on that. Okay, we've already got callers on the line. George in Texas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike? I hope you're enjoying your Labor Day. The thing is, I sat there and flipped through the college football games, and I noticed the stadiums were not filled to capacity as they used to. And I wonder why. I noticed that college enrollment is down because I don't really think people are going to want to spend about $100,000 for a useless liberal arts degree. I don't really think people want to support professors that don't serve the country's interest or the best interest of the individual. And I really think colleges make hand over fist with the athletics department. They can make tuition affordable, but they make it unaffordable.
Well,
So,
yeah, because the goal is to lure these students into getting student loans and get them plunged onto that debt hook just as hard and as early as they can.
Well, my oldest son is going to trade school. He ain't going to university. He thinks he'll do better with trade school.
Yeah, he will. He will. There's actually been a study out there now saying that people who go to trade school right out of high school, overall, on average, they're going to do better than kids who go to college, and then they come out of college, they can't find a job, they don't have a trade skill, and they're saddled with all of that debt. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with going to trade school. College used to be for people who wanted to learn an advanced set of skills that were needed by our society, but it's been turned into a fashion statement. And that's why people accept these.
I don't want to support professors or go around hitting protesters with bike locks either. And some of the professors I think should really be reevaluated. I don't mind for left wing, right wing, but do your job.
I absolutely agree, and you're right. College enrollment is down, and mostly it's economics. Young people are realizing they're going to spend a lot of money, that all these promises of high-paying jobs on graduation are just so much air. The jobs aren't out there. And, I was very lucky going through college. I didn't need to take out any student loans. I was working as a professional magician. That's how I paid for my college. I have a nephew whose father just went out of his way to pay for the education without having him go into debt. And that really is the way to go.
Another thing, I watched a little bit of Aretha Franklin's funeral, which was a 9-hour thing on YouTube. The pastor, I think, made a really big mistake telling Maxine Waters, "We got your back," in the congregation. I think Aretha Franklin's funeral was politicized too.
Yes.
To an extent.
Yeah.
So I really think, it goes back to Paul Wellstone, and I really think Governor Jessup Ventura did the right thing. Got up and walked out. When he found out Paul Wellstone's funeral was a political event. I would get up and walk out if that was the case.
Well, right now in our current society, everything is being politicized, and that was a symptom we saw in the former Soviet Union leading up to its collapse. No matter what happened, there had to be a political angle, and we're seeing it. Now, I didn't watch anything for McCain's memorial or funeral. I didn't watch Aretha Frank's. I've been to too many funerals myself this year, so I went over and I watched, the X-File marathon.
Well, me, I watched, I would just say old Gunsmoke. So,
Yes.
Gunsmoke marathon. But thank you, Mike. Have a good day.
All
I'll
right,
let you
thanks
move
an
on.
awful lot. Happy Labor Day, and we're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Welcome back, Mike. Mike, John McStain. Oh, God. Did you see it rain? And one of the reporters, tried to turn that, I thought it's, good news if there's a funeral. Well, not good news, but when it's sunny out. They turned around and said, God, God's weeping for John McCain.
Oh.
And then somebody sent a tweet saying, no, it's John McCain's victims crying down, from his victims.
That was a
That's
good
what it is.
response. That was a good response.
Isn't it?
It is. And, I'm seeing so many criticisms of the corporate media coverage of McCain's memorial and funeral, and they're all pretty much negative, that the corporate media just jumped the shark trying to polish McCain's legacy, if you will. But it was all political. It was all for display. And again, it's triggered a lot of responses from people who actually knew him. I think we reported last week on the guy who actually ran the prison where McCain had been kept, went public in an interview and said McCain was never tortured. His injuries were all from that botched ejection from his fighter plane, and he was treated very well because he was the son of an admiral. And the North Vietnamese realized what a propaganda coup that was to have him. So they took care of him. He got treatment ordinary North Vietnamese soldiers didn't get.
Yeah, Mike, you can polish a turd and put lipstick on a turd, and John
I think
McCain's
you're mixing
a
your
turd,
metaphors.
So he got flushed away. Yeah, well, yeah, lipstick on a pig usually, but I don't want to offend a pig. You know what I mean? I'd rather offend a turd.
Yeah.
But John McCain fits that bill, and it's all political. What there was basically him part of the tribal empire. Giving the big speech of how great of a man, John McCain's one of us, like the empire must, like he you know what I mean? Like that's what that's about. Most of them don't give a crap about John McCain either because, the party goes on, like his usefulness is over with. Somebody else will take his place. Hopefully not. But I'm not going to miss the guy. Hate to tell people, if you like John McCain, I'm not going to miss him. He's not a good guy. Go ask his first wife. That's enough for that said, right?
Yeah,
And,
that was.
Yeah, tells you all about the guy, all you need to know, right?
Yeah, that one really bothered me on that issue of the first wife here. But this may have been not so much about preserving, or rather rewriting, John McCain's legacy as a desperate attempt to project that the country is great, our political leaders are great, and that we should just not speak ill of the dead, which is an American custom to not speak ill of the dead. But when there's that much evil and we're being lied to so blatantly, I think we have a duty to stand up and say, we know we're being lied to.
That's funny. Hillary Clinton spoke ill of the dead was freaking Gaddafi, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all garbage, Mike. I mean, I wouldn't pick them off the street if they're just laying there. I mean, it's just garbage. They don't care about me, so I as hell not going to care about them. And they don't care about the children, especially in Syria. If they cared about the children even here, they wouldn't outsource their jobs in the first place. But, hey, Mike, I wanted to switch gears, if I have time still, on Syria.
Yeah.
This week, probably maybe in the next day or two, the operations I was reading yesterday might have started already, but I don't know if that's a true story. It's coming from Turkish media. But it's coming soon because you know why? Russia's got the drill going on until the 8th. And with that drill going on, the U.S. forces are going to have to launch cruise missiles, obviously, from further out of a distance, right? Because there's ships that are not all there. They're going there. There's more ships coming.
Yes.
So the party isn't started yet. But they have an opportunity to do what they got to do. And I'm saying this week, that's my opinion. Definitely this week coming. They were finishing up the plans the other day. And if you notice, the NATO's thing just started, today?
Yes.
In Ukraine. So, and I just want to say my condolences go out to the gentleman in Donetsk that was assassinated by the thugs in Ukraine. And you'll probably talk about that later. All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And we're going to switch over to Lenny in California. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Back, man. Hey, welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I want to speak about the weaponization of the funerals of John McCain and Aretha Franklin. And what I'm looking at, and I'm sure most of you will agree, is this is just pure evil, man. It's evil to its core, okay? And the people observing the funerals had their realities collapsed. We know what kind of person John McCain was. We know what kind of person Aretha Franklin was, okay? And although I give her the positive, they use all of her positive to feed to John McCain's negative to try and bolster him up. And the sellouts from the speakers at Aretha Franklin's funerals, especially the preachers, and bringing in people like Maxine Waters and saying, we got your back. I don't have her back. I have truth back. I have realities back. Okay, I have what is right. I have that back. But no one is allowed to speak for me and to tell me that I must join the bandwagon. And it's just sickening, Mike. And as far as John McCain is concerned, I know that you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but look at how the dead is being used to speak to the American people. As if what he did in life didn't count. If you do in life what is good and it counts for you, then what you do in life that is bad should be counted against you.
I agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
It was an exercise in propaganda, plain and simple. And again, they're trying to basically revise the history, hoping that will be the history recorded in the history books of the future, which in times past would have been exactly what happened. Today, not so sure.
Not as long as I'm around to teach it, and I figure not as long as people like you are around to teach it either. Okay, there are those who know reality, and we refuse to succumb to anything that they want to throw at us. Now, and I noticed another thing too. They actually did some acting. And go back and look at it for yourself. I don't want to just throw this on Miss McCain, but if you notice how she bent down just like Jackie Kennedy did and kissed her husband's coffin, and the two sons saluted the coffin as it was brought by an American flag,
okay, Lenny,
and trying to emulate John.
Lenny,
yes,
got to put you on hold. Don't hang up the phone. We got to do a break for commercials. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel raining holes reveal what's really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Lenny in California. We're talking about weaponized funerals. And Lenny, you're absolutely correct. These funerals, these 3 separate funerals or memorials, were very carefully staged, managed, and they tried to cram as much symbolism into them as they could, and really were playing to the gallery. It's propaganda. It's absolute propaganda.
Yeah, I agree, and like I said, you could see staged parts of it, from what's the name doing the exact move that Jackie Kennedy did for her husband, which was natural, and the 2 sons of John McCain salute their father's coffin as it goes by, and if these people are just actors, but at least John, he was just a kid, he wasn't acting. He saw his father go by and he wanted to say goodbye to him. He jerked away from his mother to do it. And it's just pathetic. But what they're doing is they're using this energy against people's emotions, to manipulate people's emotions. And what's so sickening is the so-called black church leaders with Aretha Franklin that allow her, who was not a bad person, who did some good things and gave some good things to the world, they allowed her dead energy to be manipulated with John McCain to go against Donald Trump. It reminds me of when Nelson Mandela was passing and Barack Obama jumps on Air Force One and runs down there real quick, thinking he can capture the energy death of Mandela so he can come out with his hand, and sort of like Jesse Jackson running into the church in Memphis saying, Martin Luther King died in my hands. He died in my hands. See, I got blood on my hand. Come to find out years later, that was a lie. Jesse Jackson got caught on a lie. But what?
It was chicken blood.
Huh? It was chicken blood. Thank you. It was Phil Donahue that called him out on it on national TV. On national TV, he had to admit, which makes me think what was in line for Jesse to pull that stunt. So he had made a deal with somebody. Anyway, going back to Barack Obama, he went down to try and steal that death energy from Mandela so he could use it for the people to worship him. But it backfired because Mandela refused to meet with him, and I said, thank God for that. But going back to John McCain, I know people don't like to speak ill of the dead, but never have I ever witnessed cancer saving more lives than it took by taking one.
Well, I have a question. Looking at all the festivities, if you will, of 3 memorial services plus the funeral itself, somehow I have a feeling the McCain family didn't pick up the check for that.
I get the feeling that was all taken care of too.
Yep.
All right, by the usual suspects. All right, and just to back Dustin's play here, Zarchenko over in Donetsk, that was a decapitation strike.
Yes.
Okay, and they're planning the same thing for Damascus. But Putin came out in the strongest terms I've heard him say, and Putin has to admit something to himself. The so-called Minsk agreements are dead. They never were, but they were looking to get this started to distract Putin. At the same time, they're going out trying to have a decapitation strike against Assad. But my thing is, I think the world has had enough, and I think once Russia stands up and fights the good fight, everybody else who wants truth, justice, and equality in this world are going to follow. All we need is a true leader. That's it, sir. But thank you, and have a good Labor Day, man, and welcome back.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Have a good Labor Day. The phone lines are open. Now, getting on back to Syria, French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian has admitted that Bashar Assad has won the war in Syria. And basically, now's the time to win the peace. And Le Drian said Assad hasn't won the peace. But again, you've got the U.S. Doesn't want to admit that they failed. It'll pull the momentum out from under the war agenda. Alrighty, we got another caller on the line. Oh, Layla in Ontario. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. I'm calling you on my computer because I can't use my phone. we're no longer allowed to make toll-free numbers, to make calls on toll-free numbers. If you can believe it, I use Virgin Mobile in Canada, and I was astounded to discover that we're not allowed they've narrowed down the quantity of services and increased the prices. And where I used to be able to make Canada-wide calls and toll-free numbers without any problem, now I no longer can. So fortunately, I'm able to use my computer to call you. I don't know how long the call will last. But anyway, what I wanted to do is, besides remind people about the backdoor Canada and the fact that NAFTA is still going on, and that's all about labor, and this is Labor Day, I wanted to point out one other thing. One of the unions that's grotesquely abusive of the people who pay the taxes that pay the union is the postal union here in Canada.
Okay, Layla, I'm going to have to put you on hold. Don't hang up. We've got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're talking with Layla in Ontario, and we're talking about the economy in general and NAFTA. And Layla, NAFTA may actually be in trouble right now because, as you know, Trump has made a new trade deal with Mexico to which Canada was not a part. And earlier today, he came out with a statement that he didn't see any political reason for Canada to remain in NAFTA. So I think it's a mistake for him to be annoying, treating Canada this way, this disrespectfully.
Mike, I could not disagree more with you. I think that we are getting exactly what we deserve. This country elected an idiot who himself acknowledged on CBS 60 Minutes that he failed a whole bunch of high school courses. His only qualifications are his last name, Trudeau.
Yes.
And yet Pierre Trudeau was the most destructive thing that ever happened to Canada until Pierre Trudeau was brought in by Lester Pearson, who was the man who was the head of the special committee at the United Nations, the political committee, which voted to separate Palestine, to create partition of Palestine. And Lester Pearson's answer was, well, the Arabs will just have to get used to it. So that's where the problem started. Lester Pearson is the one who brought in Pierre Trudeau, who was a communist who traveled to communist China and communist the Soviet Union at their expense, and he brought in a whole bunch of laws. He brought in biculturalism to appease the communists that were behind the FLQ that killed 2 diplomats. He brought out the War Measures Act. There were tanks in the streets of Montreal in 1970, just because of one kidnapping. And then he brought in multiculturalism as official policy in 1971. And then, as you know, it has spread onward. I don't think the U.S. has ever looked as critically as Trump has at Canada. Trump has insights that I have never seen before in a previous president. He is absolutely right. I've never before recognized the difference in the personality. And there is a persona in a nation. One thing that Canadians are, or used to be when they were primarily Anglo, I don't know if you're aware that there used to be huge hostility between the French Canadians and the English-speaking Canadians. And the French, of course, were primarily located in Quebec. Quebec was given special status by Pierre Trudeau. He declared them a nation unto themselves. They had their own immigration policy, which a lot of immigrants used to use as a backdoor to get into Canada. And it just completely, we constantly in Canada, the constant question is, what does it mean to be a Canadian? Constantly navel gazing, and our only answer was, it means we're not American. We're polite. Basically, Canadians have always...
Yes, they are. And clean, and very clean. I've always enjoyed it. Every time I've gone to Canada, I've really enjoyed it. Layla, I want to ask you a question. Getting on back to your frustration at Justin Trudeau, getting into power based on his last name. Do you really think Canada's elections are any more honest and fair than the ones we have here in the United States?
No. And I've said this repeatedly. I believe that Stephen Harper, and this is why I quit the Conservative Party, I've told them repeatedly, leave me alone. Stephen Harper threw the last election. He basically yielded it to Justin Trudeau. And every piece of video I saw where Justin Trudeau was getting this huge majority, never once did I see a look of surprise on his face. It was a foregone conclusion. And that was because the people, the Zionists who ran the Liberal Party, were the ones who had abandoned Michael Ignatieff earlier brought in this easily manipulated Justin Trudeau and made it it was given. Stephen Harper also yielded because he's so subservient to Israel. He was the first one to be subservient. I remember when Hamas was elected in 2006, I was at a conservative meeting where we were being coached by Republicans from the U.S. And the guy said, well, you know, we've declared Hamas a terrorist organization. And I said, and I spoke up, and apparently the people objected because I got the dirtiest look, to the point where they wouldn't even, one of them, even though I was on the executive, would not allow me to come into his house because I was a, quote, Palestinian. But he said, now that we've declared it, so will Stephen, so will the Conservative Party here in Canada declare Hamas to be a terrorist organization. And I said, but that election was monitored by numerous international organizations, and the people have a right to choose their representatives. In a country where unions are so powerful, imagine if we dictated to a union who their spokespeople are allowed to be. That's exactly what we're doing. We're dictating in advance to the Hamas people or to the people of Gaza or who their leadership is supposed to be so that negotiations can proceed.
Well,
And,
the U.S. has been doing that to countries all over the world, you know, since the end of World War II, going on in and telling the Iranians, you cannot have Mohammad Mossadegh, you have to have the Shah of Iran, telling the people of Chile, you know, you can't have Allende, you've got to have Pinochet, and it's something the U.S. does a lot of. Anyway, listen, Layla, going to have to let you go. Got a lot of stuff to cover before the Lady Claire joins us on the air, so thank you for the phone call. And getting on back to the Syrian news. Now, over the weekend, there was a huge explosion at an airbase outside the Syrian capital of Damascus. And at first, reports were saying, oh, it was an Israeli strike. It was an Israeli strike. So much for the vaunted S-400 missiles. But apparently what actually happened is on this airbase, they had a warehouse where they were storing all the captured weapons, improvised explosive devices, and everything that they've been taking away from these militants and jihadi and ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And apparently there was an electrical short in the warehouse that started a fire and basically touched it all off. So that's where that came from. So these accidents will happen. Now, Hezbollah is out there saying that U.S. proposals for Syria are utterly meaningless. And as you know, the U.S. is out there saying Iran and Hezbollah must leave Syria for a lasting solution. And Hezbollah is saying, look, the victors place the conditions on the peace. And the U.S. has been defeated in Syria. And it can't set conditions, and Hezbollah is not going to listen to them. So Hezbollah and Syrian President Assad are now in the stage of successive victories for Syria and its axis. Victories will continue. They will achieve more. And they are. They're making tremendous headway. And right now, the only strategy the United States seems to have left, short of an outright decapitation strike on Damascus itself, is to just keep Syria a quagmire and tie up Syria's forces and Russia's forces until they simply get tired and give the U.S. what they want. Now, that is a very weak strategy because they're turning it into a war of attrition. And the U.S. assets that are going to be used to keep the quagmire going are assets that can't be used elsewhere. And the U.S. is already stuck in quagmires in Afghanistan and down in Libya. But they don't want to admit they lost this one. The goal was to get rid of Assad. They haven't got rid of Assad. I am very honestly surprised we did not see a false flag chemical weapons attack over this last weekend. And the clock is running out. The Syrian foreign minister is still saying that they have identified gas containers smuggled into Idlib for a false flag operation. Now, the counter-propaganda is getting a little bit weird. You think we have problems with our ambassador to the United Nations being an embarrassment? The British ambassador to the United Nations, Karen Pierce, told reporters it is absolutely unthinkable that the terrorist factions in the Syrian province of Idlib could possibly be planning a terrorist attack using chemical weapons with the intention of blaming it on the Syrian government. And the reason she thinks it's that impossible is because the Russian government is warning of the possibility. And if the Russian government is saying it's going to happen, then the exact opposite must therefore be true. Yes, she really did say that. She actually said that. Now, on September 1st, 2 days ago, two Tupolev 142 Mk maritime reconnaissance and anti-submarine warfare aircraft of the Russian Naval Aviation arrived at the Hmeimim Air Base in western Syria, escorted by Sukhoi 35 warplanes. Now, these are serious anti-submarine assets. And remember, somewhere off the coast of Syria, there is still that SSGN. Not an SSBN, as an SSGN, a guided missile cruiser. And this is one of the old Ohio-class boats, which due to treaty limitations no longer carries the Trident missile. And instead of turning it into razor blades, what they've done is they've converted each single Trident launch tube to hold 7 Standard or Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. That's a lot of missiles in that one boat. And Russia may feel that they're going to have to try and hunt that thing down here. Now, last week, Netanyahu gave this speech. It was all thunder and fire and we will hurt you and the strong has to survive and the weak will go away. Interestingly enough, standing right in front of the Dimona nuclear arms facility in the Negev desert. And at this point, it almost seems like Netanyahu doesn't care who knows that Israel has nuclear weapons. Or maybe he's trying to play that card, saying, yes, we have nuclear weapons. Do what we tell you or bad things will happen to you. Now, last week, there was a report, and it was covered by the American corporate media, that Iran had sent short-range ballistic missiles to militias inside Iraq within range of Tel Aviv. Oh, those evil Iranians, they're threatening Israel. We can't allow that to happen. Well, Iran is saying, no, that did not happen. It's utterly ridiculous, and it is false. And they denounced this rumor as just trying to sow more fear among regional countries to try and build up the Iranophobia. Over in Libya, things are really not going very well for the Libyan people. Have you noticed there's this pattern? The U.S. will pick a target country, and the target country's doing fine. You know, everybody's calm, everybody's peaceful, they got a beautiful little country, they've got high literacy, like Libya. And then they go on in and they trash the place, and they leave it in this absolutely devastated condition. And right now, there are faction fights going on inside Libya. And this is within the UN-backed Government of National Accord. So apparently there are rocket attacks taking place on the city center. And this despite a truce that was agreed to last week. So there are two rival groups are trying to take control of Tripoli despite the truce declared last Tuesday. Now, the Israel Hayom newspaper has run an article inciting against Muslims in Great Britain and the leader of the British Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn. And this newspaper is out there saying the British capital of London has become a base for Islamic groups, especially the Muslim Brotherhood outside the Middle East. And the newspaper said this comes in the context of the radical speech led by British leader Jeremy Corbyn, noting to the increase in non-governmental political movements with only one common goal, that is calling for the elimination of Israel. They're really pushing the propaganda hard. Here's the good news. The more pro-Israel media tries to smear Jeremy Corbyn, the more his support grows. The British people are just fed up with all this obvious outside interference in their internal politics, which is really what Israel's trying to do. Tinker with their internal politics, the way they do with the United States. Now, Jordan yesterday has rejected and condemned a U.S. proposal for a Palestinian-Jordanian confederation. Basically, the new goal now for Israel is to make Gaza and the West Bank so unlivable for Palestinians, they'll be ready to move to Jordan. And the U.S. is trying to sell Jordan, saying, let's just have this little confederation on your land. And Jordan is saying, no, we're not going to do that. And Jordan is saying there has to be a two-state solution and the establishment of a Palestinian state on the 1967 borders. That's going to be a non-starter with Netanyahu right there. Getting on back to the West Bank, Israel is trying to evict this Bedouin tribe, the Jahalin Bedouin, in order to make way for another one of these illegal Jewish-only settlements. And they're trying to get the Bedouin to agree to a voluntary eviction without telling them up front where they're going to go. And apparently the reason is because the first suggested location was next to a garbage dump. Then Israel told the Jahalin Bedouin they'd be moved next to a large sewage treatment site where human habitation has been forbidden. So I can understand why the Bedouin are not exactly excited about that. So what is the Pentagon's answer to the Yemen atrocities like blowing up that school bus? They're going to train more Saudi pilots on U.S. soil. They're bringing them over here to teach them how to fly the aircraft and hit things that hopefully somebody has a justification for hitting. But blowing up a civilian marketplace and hitting that school bus, there's no military justification for that. That's an act of terror. That's exactly what it is. It's a campaign of terror. The U.S. and Saudi Arabia are doing to Yemen exactly what the Nazis did to Great Britain with the V-1 cruise missile and the V-2 ballistic missile. It's a campaign of terror. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Now, one of our callers earlier in the program mentioned that the Ukrainian separatist leader, Alexander Zakharchenko, was assassinated. They've already had his funeral. He was basically subject to a bomb on Friday, and the people around him are saying that the U.S. probably was involved in this as well. And it looks like that this was a preparatory move to a possible invasion of the Donbass by Ukraine. And as a matter of fact, I'm looking at a story here coming out of Fort Russ saying that the U.S. and Canada are about to invade Donbass. So if you're going to start a major war, do it on a holiday when nobody's paying attention here, which seems to be what's going on. And again, I don't think we're out of the woods yet in terms of a possible decap strike on Damascus. Now, Senator Marco Rubio has come up with a new wonderful idea, apparently in an interview with Univision. Rubio came on out and said that the U.S. military could take the necessary actions to remove Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, because Venezuela is now a threat to U.S. national security. And so Rubio's saying, I believe that the armed forces of the United States are only used in the event of a threat to national security. I believe that there's a very strong argument that can be made at this time that Venezuela and the Maduro regime has become a threat to the region and even to the United States. Okay, Senator Rubio, here's your rifle, here's your parachute, so forth and so on. Venezuela is not a threat to the national security of the United States of America. Venezuela is a threat to the petrodollar, because Venezuela has always been willing to sell their oil for currencies other than the US dollar. And that's what's driving all of these wars across the globe, to drag the world back to Bretton Woods, to drag them back to the petrodollar. Because without that, it's only a matter of time before the US economy falls apart. Now, over in the Koreas, there's been a little bit of a whoopsie. As you know, North and South Korea have decided to reopen roads and rail tracks across the DMZ. But apparently, when South Korea sent a train north to go into North Korea, the U.S.-led United Nations Command stopped them. And people are looking at that askance and saying, who's really in charge over there in South Korea? Is it the South Korean government, or is the U.S. basically treating them like a puppet regime? But this is going to provide a lot of propaganda fodder for North Korea to say, look, we're trying to get back together. And ultimately, the North Koreans are getting it. No matter what Trump wants for the Koreas, he's being sabotaged by his own advisors. All right, there's the music. We're going to take a break for station identification, and we'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Now, over in Thailand, they had this Muslim insurgency that had kind of been fading away over in the southernmost region of the nation. But apparently, all of a sudden, it's kicked up again. And nobody's exactly sure why, who's fueling it, who's funding it, where that's coming from. Now, most of you have probably heard about the U.S. base in Diego Garcia. It's a very remote base. It's a forward base. It's used for reconnaissance flights, various other things. But its original name was the Chagos Islands. And there is a very interesting story about how the island was originally claimed by Britain, who then basically sold it to the United States for these U.S. Air and Navy bases. The story was actually out there on 60 Minutes. And then the U.S. declared the entire island area a marine sanctuary in order to block the possibility of the people of Chagos coming back and saying, hey, this is our home you're on. But now there is a lawsuit heading for the International Court of Justice in The Hague, basically saying that the United States and Great Britain conspired to ethnically cleanse the Chagos Islands to make way for this military base. Now, we have been talking about America's very costly and not very good weapons, and it turns out that yet another of the Zumwalt class destroyers, the Michael Mansour, has had to have an engine completely replaced. And basically, the ship has 2 main turbines, similar to the ones that drive the Boeing 777 jetliner. And apparently it had a failure, and they had to replace the entire engine. So, I mean, look how much damage these weapons are suffering in peacetime. They haven't even gone into combat yet, and they're falling apart. So let's turn to the domestic politics here as well. Interestingly enough, and this is coming on out of Breitbart, email logs have revealed the correspondence between Clinton Associates, Fusion GPS, and the Russians at that Trump Tower meeting. Now, they have been trying to tarnish Trump by saying he either knew of or was they can't claim he was at the meeting, but they're trying to say, well, he knew that it was going on. And yet here we have these emails showing that attorney Edward Lieberman, whose late wife Evelyn served as Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, were trading emails back and forth with the co-founder of Fusion GPS and the Russian participants at this meeting. So the trail of evidence, again, shows the only collusion was going on between the Clinton campaign and Russia. Now, Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS used to work at the Wall Street Journal, and they've decided to basically throw him under the bus, basically saying, they've done an article exposing the dirty tricks of the Steele dossier firm, about how their job is not really opposition research, it's trying to fabricate credible smear jobs, which is what the Christopher Steele dossier was supposed to be, but failed miserably. Yet another story coming out of Investment Watch blog. Apparently Bruce and Nellie Orr had breakfast with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, July 30th, 2016, just one day before the FBI opened the counterintelligence investigation. I don't think that is merely a coincidence. Now, as you know, there's a big stink over the FISA warrants that were issued to spy on Carter Page, being based on fabricated information. It turns out it's even worse. The FISA court did not even hold any hearings about the application. They just got the application, said it's approved, that was it. It was out the door. So it's Tom Fitton is out there asking the question we're all asking: why aren't Lois Lerner, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, and James Comey in jail? And why is the corporate media not following up on these stories? Why are they still so obsessed with Donald Trump? Now, story out of the New York Times, they finally got one right here. Apparently, FBI agents tried to flip Russian oligarchs who were here in the United States. They had some legal issues they were dealing with, and they went on into all these oligarchs and said, we can make your legal problems go away if you will flip on Donald Trump. And to their credit, none of the oligarchs agreed. The FBI did not score any successes in manufacturing more liars. All right, we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Now, last week we reported on this story where it came on out that Hillary Clinton's email server had in fact been hacked by a foreign power, but it wasn't Russia, it was China. This Chinese state-owned company got into her server, inserted code that automatically sent them a copy of every single email she sent or received. Now, Donald Trump is demanding this be investigated. I'm in agreement with this. And here's the interesting part. The same U.S. corporate media that was out there saying, Russian hacking, Russia, not a word about this. Not a word on the corporate media news broadcasts. Remember when Hillary Clinton actually joked about her being hacked by the Chinese? She thought it was all kinds of fun. By the way, speaking of Hillary Clinton, she's hiring interns for the fall to work in her New York City office. This, according to information obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. And they're accepting applications on a rolling basis, and the internships will run from September to mid-December. Now, I use the word hiring loosely because Hillary Clinton isn't paying any of these interns. She's expecting these people to show up just for the prestige of working for Hillary Clinton. Now, do you remember down in Roanoke, Virginia, there was this restaurant called the Red Hen Restaurant, which became notorious for refusing to serve Donald Trump's spokeswoman, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And the Red Hen has lost a lot of business. People aren't going there, but apparently tourism to the entire town is now down. They don't want to go. People don't want to go there. They're incensed. And now the Regional Tourism Board is trying to pull together an emergency fund to boost its digital marketing campaign because they're in desperate need of positive coverage. Actions do have consequences. And from the fact that not just the restaurant, but the town is seeing a decline, I think tells us that American people, by and large, have not lost their sense of fair play. And I think they're really getting fed up with all of this hysterical Trump bashing. I know I am. So let's talk about the economic news. Over in Turkey, Erdogan is calling on global trading partners to smash the US dollar's monopoly. And Turkey is going to pursue non-dollar transactions in trade and investment with other countries. This is in response to US sanctions. And he's basically describing US behavior toward his and other countries as acting like wild wolves. And he's saying it's time to end the monopoly of the dollar by using local and national currencies among us. And he's absolutely right, because the United States has weaponized the dollar. They've weaponized the sanctions. They're waging economic war on a huge part of the world. And the only way to get away from that is to just delink from the dollar. And more countries are saying that. We don't want to use the dollar. It could be used against us. Down in South Africa, the land confiscation is moving forward. And as if these farmers who are having their land taken without compensation didn't have enough to worry about, the South African banks are saying that these farmers are still obligated to pay all the debts. Now, I would think that the debts would transfer with the farm to the new owners, but no, the banks are saying these farmers who have just lost everything they own, they're still on the hook for the mortgages or farm equipment loans or anything, saying that the debts will have to be paid in full even after their property is confiscated by the government. First of all, I don't think it could work, because they don't have any money. They've lost everything. They don't have the farms to make money with to pay those loans. It's an ill-conceived idea, unless it's part of the larger agenda of just pounding on the white farmers any way that they can. Now, the International Monetary Fund has basically suggested strongly to Argentina to stop supporting the peso. And this apparently follows a $50 billion IMF bailout. And they're all coming apart. We're seeing currencies plummeting all over the planet. This paper money, this fiat money, the system is breaking down here. Now, a little bit of good news. Apparently, there is a China-backed free trade deal. Could be signed as early as November. Now, this is signaling a thaw in ties between China and Japan. So they're forming their own trading bloc. The world is turning away from the United States. The global economy is restructuring itself. It's rebuilding itself into a whole new form, and there's going to be this big black hole in the middle where the US dollar used to be. Now, as I was mentioning to Layla when we were talking about NAFTA, Trump is saying there is no political necessity to keep Canada in the NAFTA agreement if a fair deal cannot be reached. So he's getting ready to basically unilaterally pull out of another deal. And Trump warned Congress against interfering, threatening to kill the deal single-handedly. Now, the United States is Canada's main trading partner. And again, I don't think it's really a good idea for Trump to be provoking them. Not that we're going to get invaded like the movie Canadian Bacon. But Trump is just turning all of our friends into our enemies. And they're starting to realign with other nations. They're moving away from us. Now, the US dollar has been completely ditched in all trade between Iran and Iraq. And they're not using the dollar anymore. They're using the euro and their local currencies, as well as direct barter of goods, as a way of evading the sanctions. Meanwhile, over in Germany, their foreign minister is again talking tough. Heiko Maas is urging the European Union to stand up for its interests in the face of sanctions and excessive tariffs imposed on its partners by Washington. He's basically saying the EU will not sit like a rabbit in the headlights. And this is going to have repercussions. Now, interestingly enough, we're starting to see more and more talk about how Europe needs to think about aligning with Russia. So this is, I don't know what Trump and his advisors thought they were going to accomplish with all these tariffs and all these sanctions. This is not it. And of course, we still have that situation about this wildly out of control student loan debt bubble. And these poor kids, they got suckered in. They were lied to by the college recruiters saying, if you get a liberal arts degree, there'll be all kinds of jobs for you. You'll pay these student loans off in just 5 years. And the cost of college has skyrocketed way out of line with the rate of inflation. College has been made much more expensive. Financial support has been reduced. It's been turned into another racket. Get these kids who think they're going to have a better life and jam them on that debt hook as hard as you possibly can so they can't get off. And these college graduates, they're crippled for decades trying to get out of that debt. Our whole country has become one giant racket. That's all it's about. Our colleges don't educate. They're just there to push the student loan. Anyway, over at Tesla, there's a problem that is starting to surface now that some of the original Teslas sold are starting to reach the end of their warranty. And there was a guy, Greg Firsterworth, who owned a Model S, or owns a Model S. And while it was under warranty, he was thrilled with Tesla's service. But now that it's out of warranty, it seems that there aren't enough mechanics qualified to work on the Tesla cars. There are very few service centers. And Tesla owners are having to try and fix their cars themselves. So this Firstenworth was one of the first Model S owners. He actually lives here in the state of Hawaii. And yeah, that's a problem. Especially with the Model 3s being accused of being substandard and defective by Tesla's own workers. And I really hate to see that company fail. I hated to see DeLorean fail. Well, actually, he didn't fail. He was deliberately brought down. Because I do agree, electric cars are the wave of the future. The only missing component is a way to generate all that electricity without having to go back to fossil fuels. All right, so let's talk about immigration and refugees. Apparently, over in Sweden, there was an Afghan who was facing deportation. He was 1 day away from being put on the plane, so he decides to have a little fun and goes on a rape spree. Basically raped this woman, left her half naked, and when he was arrested by the police, he said, "Yeah, it was my last day. I just wanted to have some fun." Meanwhile, an Afghan asylum seeker has been jailed for 8 years for stabbing a 15-year-old girl to death in Germany. And police are revealing the number of migrant murder suspects rose by a third this last year alone. Now, what was that quote we had a couple of weeks ago? If you import the third world, you will have third world problems. And that's exactly what's happening. These illegal immigrants and refugees, they're not assimilating to our culture. They want to live the way that they lived in their old countries. And we're seeing, this is literally the clash of civilizations. It's culture shock. And it's turning violent. Remember we had those violent protests in Chemnitz over the stabbing of a German national by a Syrian and an Iraqi. And I can imagine that the people of Germany are very angry with their government for exposing them to this danger. Because that's exactly what it is. The government pushing this globalism policy is exposing people to danger. We'll be right back after these few words.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. It makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas. Yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, Mirko. Welcome back to our show. And once again, we're standing here with our hands outstretched. We need your financial support. This is not optional. Nobody here is living a life of luxury. We're just barely getting by. The big money is all backing the liars because the liars get them more money. It's that simple. So the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit card or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1. And the network thanks you for that. And also as a postscript, we need more donations over at whatreallyhappened.com. Things are getting very, very tight out here. Alrighty, getting on back to the immigration news here. This is a very interesting story. Apparently there is a migrant in Germany who's been accused of 542 crimes. And they're unable to deport him because he has no paperwork and they don't know where he's from. And he's not saying. So he gets to stay in Germany. Now I assume that for at least one of these 542 crimes, he's probably in jail somewhere, which means he's a burden on German taxpayers. Now, we reported this one a little while ago, but it's worth repeating. Macron, who is a globalist, was up in Denmark making this comment saying that there's no such thing as a true Dane or a true Frenchman. We're all blended here, and there's nothing wrong with blending in a little bit more. Well, there's more to being a Frenchman or a Dane than your DNA. They're living in a country their ancestors built and that they're continuing to build. And that's what makes it theirs. That's what makes it uniquely their culture. And that's what's under attack from all this globalism, trying to basically erase national identity, trying to erase any sense of cultural or regional history to make it easier to control us all. Now, over in Switzerland, they've had a study from the University of Basel, which has come out to the conclusion, and this is going to surprise nobody, open immigration is producing long-term economic harm. And basically saying that these newly arrived immigrants, even if they find a job, they're going to wind up paying less taxes over their lifespan than somebody who was born in the country. And of course, there is the issue of the migrants who don't find jobs and have to go on the social system. And it's straining. And we're starting to see that here in the United States of America. Story coming out of the Common Sense show that illegal immigrants are basically able to get Social Security cards. And they use them to get benefits and all kinds of goodies. And the Social Security Administration is running out of money. They've been running out of money ever since the Clinton administration looted the baby boomer cash set aside. And so now the Social Security Administration is saying that the fixed income elderly are going to have their benefits cut by as much as 25%. So America is willing to simply forsake the old Americans for the sake of these illegal immigrants. It's liberalism gone wild at this point here. Apparently, France has nabbed British human traffickers with a boat full of Vietnamese migrants. So it's big business out there. Over here in the United States, an El Salvadorian immigrant, Julio Cesar Ayala, who was also suspected to be a member of the MS-13 gang, broke into an apartment and raped an 11-year-old New York City girl while she was sleeping. Now, for me, that's 3 strikes right there. 1, being an illegal immigrant. 2, committing the rape. And 3, an 11-year-old girl. And the open borders people just think this is all wonderful. This is a small price to pay for the New World Order, where all of these people are going to blend together and they're going to sing Kumbaya and hug and hug and hug each other. And it's not happening. It is bringing discord to our society. It's bringing violence to our society. It's bringing crime to our society. And it is seriously, seriously out of control. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children alike.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And over at Judicial Watch, who continue to do excellent work, apparently they have released 224 pages of documents with about 1,000 summaries of significant incident reports from Health and Human Services, revealing that unaccompanied alien children, UAC, processed during the Obama administration included known murderers, rapists, smugglers, prostitutes, and human traffickers. So that's what this open border thing is bringing into our country. All right, we're going to take a phone call here. Richard in North Carolina. Aloha, Richard. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
First off, I want to appreciate what you were just talking about, and I think you're spot on. Absolutely. But what I called in about are actually not trivial, but they're just technical gripes. The first is that I tried to call in twice to donate to RBN and couldn't reach anybody to accept the call. And this is during regular business hours. And so I think you guys need to know about that. And the other issue I've got is more of a arse issue, which is that the volume of the computer that I'm watching on increases exponentially as soon as the ad comes on. And so I have to get up from wherever I'm laying down and go over and get to the computer and decrease the volume for that period of time while the ad is on. All that does with a louder ad is it makes me less inclined to buy whatever product that they're pushing. So
I can understand your ire there. Are you talking about the RBN feed or the YouTube feed?
Oh, I think the RBN feed.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Mike
Not sure on
is,
that, but I'd have to go back and check it. Pardon?
Yeah, well, I'm sure Mike is going to take note of your comments, and you know, it would be nice if we had things like compressors in the audio chain. We'd like to have a professional, you know, radio studio. We're just getting by with minimal equipment here. You know, a handful of computers and a mixer.
Okay, so with respect to my first gripe about I couldn't donate twice, get that act together and I'll donate.
Well, I'll certainly pass that on to the appropriate people here, and I hope those of you who've tried to donate and you weren't able to get through, please try again. We'll try and make sure that that mechanism for donation is working a little more smoothly in the future.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, well, all right, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. And interestingly enough, over at the Gateway Pundit, they're reporting that Representative Ruben Gallego, Democrat of Arizona, is basically shouting a warning to immigration and customs enforcement officers, saying you will not be safe from prosecution post-Trump. That sounds to me like a threat. And here is the issue. The officers at Immigration and Customs Enforcement have not committed any crime for which they could be prosecuted. They simply haven't. They're enforcing Title VIII. They're enforcing the existing laws, and they can't be prosecuted for that. Now, I'm sure the Democrats might say, well, we're going to pass a law saying that everybody who got in the way of the immigrants is going to be prosecuted, but that in turn would violate the ex post facto part of the Constitution, which says the government cannot pass a law making something you've already done illegal. So it's just bluff and bluster here. Story coming out of Sputnik News. Russia and France should lead the European Confederation. This according to a French general, Didier Tozin, former presidential candidate. So once again, we're seeing these indications where Europe wants to pull away from the United States.
And I can hardly fault them for that when you look at how the U.S. has been abusing them with all these tariffs and everything, and all these sanctions, trying to whoop on Russia, and it's always backfired. It's hurt Europe more than it's hurt Russia here. Even Macron is out there saying that the European Union should create new approaches to security with Russia. And he's still out there saying that Putin dreams about dismantling the European Union. I don't think that's accurate. The EU is dismantling itself between the predations of the European Central Bank and the open borders policy. The EU is coming apart. The member states, they want out. Now, interestingly enough, getting on back to that compound in New Mexico, where these 5 men were arrested for child abuse in New Mexico, and they were found living in this compound with 11 starving children in third world conditions, and there was also a body of an additional child buried underneath it, who apparently died from medical neglect. He had an illness he was not getting medications for. Authorities recovered guns and ammunition from the compound, which served as an Islamist training ground for the youth and their possessions. And apparently, Border Patrol just spotted this compound and reported it. And prosecutors are saying the camp served to teach kids to commit school shootings in the name of Islam. It also turns out they were planning a terror attack on a hospital. Now, here's where the story gets a little bit weird. Okay, the FBI apparently knew they were there for months. The judge in the case ordered the site bulldozed, destroying any remaining evidence that might be there, and let the men walk free. Now, they've subsequently been rearrested. But it looks to me like this was a false flag operation, and it got burned. That's my read of the situation here. Now, here's a very good article coming out of The Spectator in Great Britain, and it's talking about political correctness. And the article's title, I think, really says it all. Millennials aren't taking offense, they're hunting for victims. And basically, the idea isn't that they're really offended by anything. They're just looking for reasons to go on the attack against anybody that is not sharing their liberal worldview. Oh, you're being racist, you're being sexist, you're being this, you've got to shut up, you're offending people. Well, you can't have freedom of speech and an offense-free society. The two are mutually incompatible. But it's another attempt to trick us into self-censorship, of not speaking our mind at a time when, more than any other time, we need to speak what's on our mind, about what's going on, about the wars, about the economy, and not get all tangled up worrying about which restroom we're supposed to use. Apparently, Giffords gun control activists are planning a rollout of their next generation firearm restrictions. Doesn't matter how many they get, they always want more. And they're always talking about closing loopholes. And basically, we've already reached the point where bureaucrats have the discretion to decide who should own guns in the first place. And all of this is predicated on this liberal idea that if they ban all the guns, that all the evil in men's souls will go away. And that's not going to happen. You can't change human nature. Liberalism is founded on the presumption that human nature can be changed, that it is malleable. It all goes back to Margaret Mead's Coming of Age in Samoa, which turned out to be an intellectual fraud. Human nature cannot be easily changed. It can be and should be controlled. Now, legislators out in California have passed a bill, Proposition 65, which makes all manufacturers label products that could have a chemical that could cause cancer or birth defects, even though it won't. Now, it sounds like a good idea, and it actually is a good idea, and there was a big fight regarding glyphosate
over this bill. But apparently, legislators have discovered or have decided that a company called Bond Arms uses a chemical in the manufacturing of their firearms that could cause cancer. And even though the chemical is no longer on the weapon when it's delivered to the gun stores, they're demanding these products will have to carry the warning labels. And Bond Arms is saying that the cost of engraving a warning on the side of the guns is prohibitive. They're simply not going to supply their products in the state. So it's another left-handed form of gun control. Now here's where it gets very, very interesting. Apparently, the Department of Education came on out with a report stating that schools around the U.S. reported an alarming 235 shootings in 1 year. Well, NPR, which is as liberal as you can get, decided they were going to run with this story to underscore just how dangerous school shootings were. And so NPR basically called all of these schools to find out the details of the shootings and discovered more than 2/3 of the reported gun incidents never happened. It was a huge, huge embarrassment. They're just making the numbers up here. Now, NPR was honest enough to put out the conclusion of what they found. School shootings, 2/3 of them didn't happen. The situation is being overstated. And a Facebook user put that report out on his page, and Facebook took it down as spam. More censorship here. Over in Massachusetts, they have come up with a way of dealing with school shootings. It's called the Blue Bucket. And it's a blue bucket, as the name implies. It's a 5-gallon bucket, a wooden doorstop, a 1-pound hammer, a 50-foot length of rope, and a roll of duct tape with which the students can barricade themselves in their rooms during an emergency school shooting. Needless to say, people are not being very impressed with that. There is a company that is now making school backpacks that are bulletproof. They can't keep up with the orders. Again, out in California, as you know, they had these horrific wildfires, and some were started by arson. One is known to have started from sparks from a tire rim, from a blown tire. But a lot of them were started by electrical power lines that were brought down by falling tree limbs that had not been cut back. And this dumps the responsibility right on Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, of Hinckley fame. And so California's legislature just passed a bill to protect PG&E from liabilities. The bill passed 29-4 in the Senate, 45-10 in the Assembly. It's waiting for Governor Jerry Brown to sign it. And the rationale behind this was to spare PG&E customers from huge increases in their energy bills, saying that unless PG&E was protected from liability for the fires, the ratepayers would be holding the bag. Somehow, I don't think that was the real reason here. But we're seeing more and more cases where government passes laws to protect corporations from their own bad behavior. Okay, as you know, the weather has been a little bit wild. We had Hurricane Lane that came out a little over a week ago. We were lucky here on Oahu. Did not get much of it. Big Island got it. Maui got it. Kauai actually got it. In fact, the area that was destroyed by floods in April of this year was re-flooded, and it set back the effort to rebuild the highway and the bridge. So that was not a pleasant situation. But there is a big storm that has formed over the upper Florida Keys. It's sweeping into the Gulf, and it looks like it's going to go right up the heartland. And apparently it formed an eye wall almost immediately, so it's going to be a very, very strong one. Meanwhile, over in Japan, Typhoon Jebi is making landfall right now. So it is a wild, wild weather season. By the way, since Hurricane Lane, we've actually had 3 more hurricanes. They're all missing us by a wide margin. Norman is out there missing us. Maria missed us to the north. And there's a new one forming off the coast of Mexico, Olivia, that's expected to go north. So we're dodging these bullets here. Here is a very interesting story. This came out of the Daily Mail. And basically it relates to Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, the one that took off and just vanished and nobody knows where it went, although there are persistent rumors of a military accident. But apparently the independent experts looking into the data are saying they're finding evidence that the data logs on the aircraft, the data that was sent from the aircraft to the ground and recorded, may have been modified. And the reason for the concern is that there are still data logs that Malaysia will not release. So again, there's another cover-up over there. Google, according to Bloomberg, Google has purchased a huge amount of credit card transaction data from MasterCard, allegedly for millions of dollars. So now they've bought your banking data in secret. And Google is supposed to be using that data to provide select advertisers with a tool called Store Sales Measurement that the company quietly announced in a blog post last year, although it failed to mention the inclusion of the MasterCard data in the workflow. The tool can track how online ads lead to real-world purchases. That extra data is designed to make Google's ad products more appealing to advertisers, meaning everybody makes more money this way. Now, the public was not informed of the reported MasterCard deal, though advertisers have had access to the data for at least a year. So we're all being spied on. Our data has become the property of corporations. And it's one of the reasons why Claire and I really prefer to do cash, because nobody's tracking the cash. Nobody's tracking the cash. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and we'll be back after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER. Staff.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And the CEOs of Facebook, Twitter, and Google have been called back to the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's going to happen a little later this week. It's going to be an open, actually next week, an open hearing. And Larry Page, who's the chief executive of Google parent company Alphabet, was invited but has so far not confirmed that he will be there. Interestingly enough, following this announcement of more hearings into the social media corporations exercising undue influence on the content, Twitter apparently has silently lifted the shadow bans. And apparently people on Twitter noticed the quality filter bans had been lifted. So Twitter is backing down at least until after the hearings are over. But it's starting to cost them money. They're losing users. And some of the stuff they're doing is just ridiculous. Apparently Will Johnson got banned from Facebook for using the word monkey because that's now considered racist and offensive. Another user, Mr. Guns Gear, got banned for posting about a veteran receiving the Medal of Honor. And here's where it gets really, really wild. Apparently, Facebook deleted all of the posts of the former British ambassador after falsely identifying him as a Russian troll. Okay. And here's another little whoopsie. Apparently, over in Hollywood, the Hollywood studios have been accidentally flagging their own Internet Movie Database listings as pirate links. Apparently, this is traced back to a rather persistent bug in the takedown code of a major reporting agency. There are now companies that do nothing but go on out and scan the web looking for pirate links, and it basically tagged the entries in the Internet Movie Database. Now, if you know about the IMDb, it is the go-to source for information about movies. And they're not pirates. Apparently over at TSB, they've lost their online accounts for a third time in 5 months after yet another IT upgrade. Now back to California, and this one I agree with. They finally did something right. California has passed a net neutrality bill, basically saying if you're operating inside California, all traffic has to be handled with equal priority. And it was a state-level fight, and proponents of net neutrality are saying now it's time to do the same thing in other states as well, to get net neutrality reinstated at the state level. Now, obviously, the big corporate media and the ISPs are going to be fighting this tooth and nail, but if they can do it in California, they can do it elsewhere. All right, there's the music. We're going to take a break here for station identification. When we come on back, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us for hour number 3.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who is joining us today on Monday, Labor Day, because she will be unable to be with us on Friday. So, Claire, what's the first thing you want to talk about? Oh, wait a minute. It would probably help if I turned up your volume.
Yes, that would help, dear. Thank you so much. I'd like to talk about the situation that Argentine President Mauricio Macri finds himself. And the IMF has said, don't use any more of our money to prop up the currency, which has failed. And when the IMF bailed them out, he's addressing his country members and saying, everyone has to make sacrifices. But we know who's going to be making the sacrifices. The people who are least capable of making them. And the citizens of this nation have lost 50% of their wealth year to date following the collapse of the peso. And he said, well, it's been exaggerated by problems in Turkey and Brazil and blaming external factors and not binging on too much dollar-denominated debt to manufacture a smoke and mirrors-based boom. He noted that investors have started to doubt Argentina's ability to function, which, you know, I would say that that's a magnificent grasp of the obvious.
Well, unfortunately, we're starting to see economies all over the world start to stutter.
Mhm, yeah.
You know, because all of this, you know, debt funding, it's a giant pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it's a feel-good moment, and then all of a sudden when the money stops, that's when things go south, and they have, you know, for the Argentine economy. And to close the budget gap, Macri is going to raise taxes on the one thing that seems to be working, which are its exporters, and they have been doing really good. And you've got hyperinflation, and now they're going to be resorting to price controls on essential foods. And Mike, when historically has that ended well?
It's always a short-term stopgap measure, but ultimately it does lead to serious problems down the road. Because if you put price controls on food, the food producers and supply chain will simply say, well, we're not making any money here, we're just going to quit.
Yeah. And basically the plan, and some exporters are going to be killing it because of the plunging peso, tax them into the ground so they're paying their quote-unquote fair share. So now he's caught between the rock of pleasing investors and the hard place of ensuring that the belt tightening isn't going to cause social upheaval ahead of next year's election.
Oh, he's in a bad place.
I don't know that there may or may not be an election in Argentina next year. I think more poverty is going to happen. And you've also got a situation in Argentina where the central banks have hiked their rates to 60% as currency collapses. Can you imagine what that's doing to loans?
Oh, that is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the third largest economy in the region. And the peso is down more than 45% against the dollar. And this is even stoking up a lot of fears over the country's weakening economy. And you've got inflation running at 25.4% a year this year. And
Well, that number's going to go up.
oh, that number is probably going to rocket. Absolutely. And there was another article by a writer who I really love to link to. The gentleman's name is Pepe Escobar. And he's a very astute guy. And he talks about economies and crashing currency chaos. And apparently it's spreading across the global south. The Iranian rial crash, the Turkish lira has crashed, the Argentinian peso crashed, the Brazilian real crashed. And they are elements of a number of incidents at play in this crazy case of crashing currencies. And what happened with Turkey was that it was very heavily influenced by easy credit from the European banks. And Argentina's problem is mostly due to the austerity that their president is going to put them into. Iran's has to do with U.S. sanctions imposed after Trump's administration's unilateral pullout from the Iranian deal. And Mike, I cannot understand this. I can't put my head around it because the guys and the ladies at the IMF are very bright people. I mean, they've probably got words on their CVs and their resumes I couldn't begin to pronounce. And if they are telling the world that Iran is still dealing by the terms of the treaty, you know, the only thing I can think is that Netanyahu got to President Trump and said, you're going to pull out. You're going to pull out. We're going to be at war against them anyway within the year.
Well, you know, again, it's not really up to IMF to determine whether or not Iran is in compliance with the nuclear deal. The IAEA is.
Yes, IAEA.
And, yeah, Iran is still playing by the rules of the nuclear deal. They're still basically the other signers of the Iran nuclear deal. They're all continuing to keep this moving forward and try and keep it going. But, you know, Trump has just decided he wanted to wreck it. He wants to arm twist Iran into a new deal, which will also include Iran's long-range ballistic missiles. And I'm starting to wonder if that stunt, where they tried to claim that Iran was supplying short-range missiles to militias in Iraq that were in range of Tel Aviv, if that was a propaganda push to say the new deal with Iran will also include the shorter-range missiles as long as the longer-range ones. But Iran is not going to go for that because they're not going to leave themselves completely defenseless against what they know is a coming U.S./Israeli invasion. Anyway, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. But it is a currency crisis, and everything that they do is basically going to be throwing more currency out there, and that's going to make the currency that's already in circulation worth that much less. We're going to see a global hyperinflationary phase.
What the Fed has done before QE, the quantitative easing, has now been followed by a quantitative tightening. We've been printing dollars like crazy, and the U.S. debt was devalued, so foreign creditors were paid back with cheaper U.S. dollars. Now the Fed has dramatically reversed course and is doing an all-out invested quantitative tightening. So there's no more liquidity for countries like Turkey, Brazil, Argentina, Indonesia, or India. U.S. interest rates are up. The Fed stopped buying new bonds. The U.S. Treasury is issuing new bond debt. And therefore, QT, combined with a global targeted trade war, is kind of telegraphing the new normal, the weaponization of the U.S. dollar. Mike, that's what's happening here.
Yes, that's what's happening, and that's why you're seeing more and more countries saying, got to get away from the dollar.
Yeah.
Got to get away from the dollar and do direct commodities barter, use national currencies, use the euro, and we're hearing that from all over the place.
Yes, absolutely. Another article I noticed in Blacklisted News today, Five Eyes nations to force encryption back doors on their clients. And apparently tech companies are getting what is referred to as a Faustian interception choice. Now, these are the governments of Australia, US, UK, Canada, and New Zealand, and those are the Five Eyes countries. And they issued a statement that technology providers, computer providers, must provide lawful access to users' encrypted communications. You know, and whatever happened to the Fourth Amendment in this country against unreasonable search and seizure?
Well, it's gone. I mean, our Constitution and our Bill of Rights has been under constant attack for this new surveillance state. And again, none of this is really going to work.
No.
Because real terrorists and real criminals are going to write their own encryption.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. This is more of this. We've got to watch everybody at all times because we're scared that the people are getting ready to rise up. You know, and NSA is doing it here in the United States. They're collecting huge amounts of data, so much that they really can't evaluate it properly. Now they're going to repeat the same failure on a global level.
Yeah.
But again, this is all about spying on law-abiding citizens, stealing their business secrets, stealing their amateur porn, if you will.
Yeah.
But again, real criminals, real terrorists, it's very easy to create systems of encryption that cannot be broken, at least for the duration of whatever your operation is doing. And we proved that with our challenge against the NSA.
Right.
Where we created 6 encryption systems in a row, put them out as a challenge. Not one of them was ever solved.
Yeah. And, they say that they're committed to personal and privacy rights. What kind of personal and privacy rights do you have when your encrypted data can immediately be sucked out of your machine?
Well, you don't have any. Now, they keep using the phrase lawful access to information. But we already know that that is a joke, because remember back when they were trying to put the Clipper chip on us?
Yeah.
The Clipper chip was a mandated encryption standard, and our privacy was supposed to be protected because the encryption key was supposed to be broken into 2 halves and stored with 2 different escrow agencies. And somebody who wanted access to your communications would have to get a court order and go to both escrow agencies to get the 2 halves of the key to put it back together. But that was a gigantic bluff.
Yeah.
Because if you had just one of the 2 keys, you could derive the other one, which is why Clipper chip is no longer out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a bit of a crutch. It's, as I said before, it's very easy to write secure encryption. What the government's goal is to do is to convince you that your communications are protected while they're not, while they're wide open.
Yeah.
It's like basically the police saying, you have to give us the keys to your front door and trust that we're not going to come on in and loot the place when you're gone. Which, by the way, apparently an entire town's police force just got arrested.
Oh, my goodness.
For crimes.
Mike, did you cover this in the first 2
Nope.
hours? Okay. California, home of my birth and place I will never go back to, apparently have passed 8 bills to raise gun purchase age to 21, ban gun shows, ration gun purchases, and more. There were 4 anti-gun bills that were approved late this week and are heading for signature. And they're also expanding what is called AB 2888, which
It's Assembly Bill.
Assembly Bill, thank you. 2888, which would expand who can file for one of California's gun violence restraining orders. And boy, all the people they can add to that list: co-workers, employers, school employees, family members, and police. You know, turn in your neighbor, hello?
Yep.
I mean, what you have said many times, I believe, holds very true. The only person who is going to stop a bad guy with a gun is going to be a good guy with a gun.
Absolutely. But the liberals are absolutely convinced that if they take all the guns, that all the evil in men's souls will simply magically disappear. It's not going to happen.
No. No. And what do you think about the idea of arming teachers?
If they're properly trained, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing that we have to do that nobody wants to talk about is that link between senseless violence and these prescription antidepressants.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yes, this last mass shooter that we had,
Oh, yes.
yeah, he was on these medications as well. There is a real problem there.
Yeah.
And Congress actually held hearings about it once, but did nothing because the pharmaceutical lobby is that big and they've got a lot of money to hand out.
Oh, yeah, they do.
And
Especially
we're living in a
during
country
election
where
time.
dangerous, bad products are
Yeah.
for sale because they make money and the corporations share that money with the government and everything just ticks along the way it always has.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask in terms of this issue, haven't most of the school shootings happened in gun-free zones?
Pretty much all of them.
Yikes.
I mean, by default, schools are gun-free zones.
Yeah.
But the shopping malls where these things happen, gun-free zones, they ought to take those stupid signs down because those signs are an invitation to anybody whose brain is melted on prescription antidepressants.
Yeah.
You know, come on in and have fun. Nobody
Yeah.
can shoot back.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you'd be better off, you know, having a sign in front of the neighborhood saying, you know, 1/3 of the homes here have firearms. You guess which ones.
Yes, right, right. Let's drop on over to Europe. The European Union is looking to almost double the number of defense cooperation programs developed to bolster the 28-nation bloc's military strength. They're weighing 33 new projects under its so-called PESCO program and could decide in a couple of months whether to move forward or not. And they're currently running 17 projects to enhance security and defense among member countries. And the bloc is taking what they call a phased approach to getting more cooperation and may consider inviting non-members to participate in the future.
They're building a grand army of the empire.
Yes, the U.S. has warned the EU about discriminating against American companies as the national governments press ahead with these projects. And
What they're really saying is more and more of these European countries like Turkey
Yeah.
want to buy their weapons from Russia
And-
because
yeah.
they're less expensive
And they work better. Yeah.
and so, you know, you will buy our weapons and who cares if they don't work.
Yeah, I mean, there is a point, and I think we're coming to a tipping point on this where the U.S. cannot be the bully of the world, but they're acting like it.
That's basically it. And we all know the truth about bullies.
Mhm.
You know, bullies are at heart, you know, bluff and bluster.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what's going on right now.
Right, right, right. Now, you covered this article about the U.S. trying to turn various Russian...
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. Okay,
we
all right. I
covered that
thought
one.
I heard that. Okay. And next thing I wanted to take a look at is the New York Times is a propaganda megaphone for war. And this is by a former New York Times reporter who was very excited when he got the job to work for New York Times. But apparently, it's simply to push the agenda, which is usually martial in its nature when it comes to war.
Well,
And
that's true of
yeah.
all the corporate media right now.
yeah, but especially that one. It's a propaganda tool for the ruling establishment. And this correspondent did an interview with RT, Russia Today, and he was in the Balkans during his time at the newspaper and was offered an inside look as to how it all works. And apparently what bothered him more than anything, Mike, was how the supposed paper of record was so determined to sell the Iraq War to the American people, even if it meant basically lying to us or repeating the government's lies about Iraq.
Which we all know is pretty much what happened and continues to happen to today.
Yeah, absolutely. And he resigned. And I think that was very moral of the guy to have done once he realized what was going on. And I would like to give a book that he has published a little shout out. It's called A Rough Guide to the Dark Side. And yeah, but I mean, we get this all the time. and weapons of mass destruction, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the propaganda, it's just more of the same to enable more of a war threat so that people will be not thinking clearly,
Yes.
not wanting to think clearly. Apparently, need to go back over to the Middle East here. El-Sisi, the Egyptian president, has approved a law restraining social media. And it's very public about its crackdown on opponents with a new law. And the legislation allows officials to monitor social media users. And as reported by the official paper on Saturday, the new law gives the state authorities the right to monitor the activities of social media users on the net. And it places social media accounts with over 5,000 followers under the supervision of the Supreme Council for the Administration of the Media. And that means that any site, Facebook, Twitter, or any other platform, could be considered a media outlet and subject to the supervision of the media regulator, which could block them for allegedly spreading fake news.
Okay, we got to take a break here for commercials. We have a
Okay.
caller waiting on the line,
All
and
right.
we will be right back.
Okay.
Do you or someone you know suffer from chest pain, blood pressure, cholesterol, or irregular heartbeat? Are you looking for a more natural solution to overcome these health challenges? You hear the ads all the time. If this stuff's so good, why doesn't my doctor prescribe it? That's easy. Doctors are not trained in natural medicine. Extendivite Heart Tonic does want you to be as healthy as you can be, and it really works. Take Extendivite for 6 months and your doctor will say, I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. It's working for you. Get the dependability of Extendivite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, Mirko. Welcome back to our show. We're going to take a phone call now from James in Ohio. Aloha, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi. Based on a study conducted by the Kremlin's equivalent of the RAND Corporation, indicating that it would simultaneously infuriate the American left and increase his parameter as an American folk hero, it said that it's rumored that Vladimir Putin is considering changing his surname to Rasputin.
Okay.
That's all I have for you. I just figured there was a need for some humor.
Oh,
yes,
thank you.
There absolutely is.
Yeah.
All right, James, thanks an awful lot for that much-needed laugh. And we're going to get back here to Claire. We were talking about how they're cracking down on opposition views in Egypt like they're trying to do here in the United States. Of course, here in the United States, we still have that First Amendment. They're trying to figure out a way they can get around that.
Mm-hmm. And we do this a little more subtly in the West, so it doesn't appear that social media is being restrained. And it's the A word, the algorithms of companies like Facebook, formerly Twitter, we don't know if Twitter is going to go back, and YouTube, where algos can block results of various searches to the point where they're unfindable, Mike.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And this is a very rough thing going on in Myanmar. Apparently, there were a couple of journalists who were arrested on December 12th. They were charged with obtaining secret documents in Myanmar while reporting on the killings of the Rohingya people in the country's Rohingya state. And these are Reuters journalists, and they have been charged as being guilty of violating the law on state secrets and sentenced to 7 years in prison.
That's not pleasant.
No, definitely not. And I mean, the reality is out there. The Myanmar government is literally committing genocide against the Rohingya. And they keep saying, no, we're not. And Aung San Suu Kyi, I hope, will get her Nobel Prize yanked. People thought that they were going to put her into power there and that it was going to change the actual fabric of Myanmar. She didn't. She just goes along to go along. And
kind of like Trump.
Yeah, well, the people who are still in charge are these very brutal, very, it's funny to think of the word Buddhist and fanatical. They're fanatical Buddhists in one phrase, but yeah, that's what you've got. And the killings continue. And some of them have been able to be reabsorbed by Bangladesh, which is not a rich country, just on the border, and can barely afford to get things done. You know, so it's really bad. When truth gets criminalized, folks, that's when you know your society is in deep.
Well, we're pretty much there. I mean, again, there's that push by Israel to redefine anti-Semitism as criticism of the government of Israel, which, like I've said, it's ridiculous. That's like saying that the only reason people ever complained about the Nazis is that they hate the German people.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to start with a phone call here.
Okay.
Frank in North Carolina. Aloha, Frank. I'm probably going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Well, maybe not. Yeah, that was a great point. I wanted to just disagree with something that I heard a little while ago. You said that liberals think if you take all the guns away, that that'll stop all the gun violence or the violence in general, I guess. And I just personally, I believe that they want to take the guns away so they can take your stuff and kill you. That's really all I had. I'd really like to see my algorithm. I'd like to have a picture of it up on the wall.
Yeah,
I'd like to see ours,
we'd all like
too.
to see that. Well, during the 20th century, every genocide was preceded by a gun ban on the targeted population.
And total control of the media.
And total control of the media. So there's merit in what you're saying. What I actually did say, though, is that liberals honestly believe that if they take away all the guns, that all the evil in men's souls will magically disappear. And that's one of the fundamental flaws of the liberal philosophy, in that they believe human nature is malleable. It isn't. Human nature is human nature. It's our inheritance from millions of years of evolution. And it's not going to change. It can't be controlled. It needs to be controlled, whether that's with laws or, in some cases, pharmaceuticals. Good ones, we hope. But absolutely, the liberals are convinced that they want to live in this utopian society where nobody ever says anything offensive and nobody has a gun. And frankly, I can't think of any place that would be more boring to be stuck in for the rest of my life than someplace where it's just nothing. It's one big giant marshmallow you're living in. Anyway, Frank, we're going to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction. Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. see how far 5:15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job in one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And Claire, what is next on your list?
Well, in a rare admission, the U.S. Saudi-backed, Saudi-led coalition accepted responsibility Saturday for an airstrike on a school bus which killed about 40 kids, at least 40 kids. And the statement called the attack unjustified and vowed to punish those involved. Yeah, mistakes were made. How is this going to take the life or bring the life back of one of those children? Or families that are going to be torn apart forever? You know, come on. I mean, it just makes me sick to see my government and my country involved in war crimes, which the U.S. is doing in Yemen. They are aiding and abetting the Saudis in the function of war crimes.
Yeah, but this apology is significant.
Yeah.
That Saudi Arabia has never apologized before for anything that they've done. But bombing that school bus, that crossed a line. And we're seeing a lot of these governments, they just keep going and going and going until they step over that line where world opinion turns against them. We saw that in Israel with the Bloody Monday massacre and the continuing, ongoing shooting of peaceful protesters in Gaza. This school bus incident was the same thing for Saudi Arabia. Even Saudi Arabia's staunchest supporters can't look at that and say this was okay because it absolutely was not.
Right. And in this fight that's lasted for about 3 years, there have been about 17,000 civilians we know of who've been killed or injured, mostly by airstrikes, making the humanitarian crisis in this country, where people are suffering from hunger, possibly weaponized disease and displacement, even worse. You know, I wish, Mike, that you and I could move to a country that doesn't commit war crimes or is not involved in committing war crimes.
Name one.
I know. Switzerland?
Switzerland's got their hands full with the refugee crisis.
Yeah. Well, you see, I'm saying maybe. We're a little too broke and a little too old. Another very interesting article.
Thank you for reminding me. I just had a birthday.
Oh dear, I just had one
old.
earlier.
I'm getting
Stop
old.
it. Me too.
I'm creaking.
Stop it. I
Yes,
creak
dear.
worse than you do.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. Apparently, the U.S. has already drafted a list of targets for potential strikes in Syria. Okay. And apparently, military and intelligence have already gotten a list of their to-do list of targets. And they're saying it's only going to happen, of course, if there are going to be chemical weapons used by the Syrian government and al-Assad against its own people.
Which, again,
Come on, folks.
why would Assad do something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, he's won the war.
Yeah.
It's all over but the shouting. They're going to clean out Idlib, and that will basically be it. And Assad may be many things. He's not stupid.
No,
he's not
definitely
going
not.
to do the one thing that would allow the United States to justify a new military incursion into Syria.
No.
They've been telegraphing this thing, chemical weapon for 2 weeks, and they're being called on it around the world. No, Assad isn't going to do this.
No.
This is going to be done by the U.S.-backed rebels to frame on Damascus.
Yeah.
And I love that one comment that came out of Britain's ambassador to the United Nations, that absolutely the terrorists are not going to do this because Russia said they're going to do it, and therefore the exact opposite has to be true. And we thought Nikki Haley was an embarrassment.
Oh dear. Oh dear. The poor British people. And one of the points in this article that I was looking at seemed to indicate that the Pentagon is engaged in an all-out info war as it denies all statements referring to a potential false flag chemical weapons attack, which Russia says, as you have mentioned, is being prepared by terrorists. And Pompeo, just this morning, was stating that if Syria uses gas, that there will be a strong U.S. reaction.
Well, That may be a little bit trickier because of that Russian naval exercise off the coast of Syria.
Oh, yes.
It means the American ships will have to be further out in the Mediterranean, which limits the range of their cruise missiles.
Yeah, because they can't.
Yeah.
There's only so far that where those missiles are accurate, and if they have to move outside of that. And here is a statement by the Pentagon, which I think is hysterical. Russia has recently launched a concentrated disinformation campaign to discredit the United States and international partners and allies. Specifically, Russia has suggested that as a pretext for United States strikes against Assad regime, humanitarian organizations in Syria were planning on a chemical weapon attack. This is absurd, Commander Sean Robertson said on Friday. Yeah, Commander, weapons of mass destruction, Iraq, hello? What are you trying to sell us, sir? What in the world are you trying to sell us?
They're trying to sell us that they're moving forward with this idea.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Mhm.
Assad is not going to do this. What does he gain from it? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, who benefits? The U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
I think it hasn't happened because there has been a decision made in terms of maximum effective timing on the airwave with the prostitutes and correspondents. And perhaps they felt that this particular Monday being a holiday, people may have turned off their TVs. They weren't watching their CNNs, NBCs, CSNBC, MSNBCs. And we have another article again from Zero Hedge by Pepe Escobar. He's a gentleman I would encourage our readers and listeners to find when you can. And he talks about provocations have a way of escalating into wars. And he makes the observation that the Russian government and President Putin are coming under pressure not from U.S. sanctions, because they're forcing Russia into economic independence, but from Russia's patriots who are tired of Putin's non-confronting the West's never-ending insults and military provocations. And they don't want war. They want their country's honor defended, and they believe that Putin is falling short on this part of the job. And this disillusionment with Putin, plus raising the retirement age for pension, which was a trap set for him by Russia's economists, have hurt his approval ratings at the precise time that he is about to be tested by Washington in Syria. And I think, as you say, that is yet to unfold, but I think it will in the next week, at least the next 2 weeks.
Well, Putin is in a very difficult place.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that a direct military confrontation with the United States, it almost won't matter who declares victory at the end.
Mhm.
Everybody's going to get hurt.
It will be a Pyrrhic victory.
And yes, there are Russian hardliners who are saying, you know, we've got to assert ourselves.
Mhm.
But how do you do that? How do you defend the honor of your nation without risking a war? And I think Putin has been very, very skillful about this. And you need to understand that a lot of the dissent that Putin
Mhm.
is dealing with inside Russia is part of U.S. covert attempts to destabilize his administration and bring him down.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting. A lot of these sanctions seem to be bringing Russia closer together with other aligned nations like China,
Yep.
Indonesia, the BRIC nations. And it looks now like Turkey may walk away from NATO, which is going to be a nasty thing for us, and may join the BRIC, the Shanghai Conference,
Yes.
very soon. You know, it's sometimes you wonder what people in D.C. are thinking.
Well, Washington, D.C., the deep state, they're caught up
Mhm.
in groupthink or magical thinking. They don't dare say that this might be a bad idea, or they're
Mhm.
going to find themselves on the outs again.
Right.
In fact, the deep state is as much a cult as liberals in general.
Mhm.
And they're going on that old wisdom that the U.S. has never lost a war, which is not entirely accurate. We certainly
Vietnam,
didn't win
hello.
in Vietnam.
No, we didn't.
And we certainly didn't win in Korea.
No. Absolutely not.
Okay, yeah, we
covered
talked
this.
about that, the
Yeah.
bulletproof backpack.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And was a very excellent article from Zero Hedge about the Department of Homeland Security created a deceptive tale of Russia hacking U.S. voter sites. And they keep saying this happened, Mike, but there's absolutely zero proof, right?
No, there's no proof of it. And part of that, of course, is that these electronic voting machines are deliberately designed not to keep any kind of a record here. Anyway, we have another caller on the line.
Okay.
Mark in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, you guys? Say, I don't know if you saw it. You're talking about false flag. I pre-recorded it for a couple of days ago. Green Zone with Matt Damon. Excellent movie.
Yes.
I mean, it really basically showed. I don't know if they use real names or not, but it showed how basically we were lied to about the so-called WMDs and how that he was a warrant officer, chief warrant officer, and really believed the garbage and went from one side to the other and found there was nothing there, and then he dug a little deeper and found out it was all BS. And also, turned out that there was a Wall Street Journal reporter that was involved, a female Wall Street Journal reporter that was actually involved in this whole scam in the first place. I don't know how much of it is. I know it's true that we were lied to. I don't know how much, how much of this, whether they use real people or not, like the Wall Street Journal and all. But I'm telling you, it was excellent. I mean,
it is,
and it reminds me so much of what they're trying to do in Syria today. Almost a carbon copy, and that we can continue to believe these people, and Iran, by the way, that we can continue to believe these people shows me if that we're not. We got a long way to go to be the American people that deserve this Constitution in this country.
If you look at the polls, the American people aren't believing it anymore. Especially since the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, the American people have become very skeptical. Trust in the U.S. government and corporate media is at all-time record lows, and that's why they're panicking and trying to get social media to deplatform all of the independent media. Is they're starting to realize they have lost control over what the people of America are thinking. They can't steer it anymore. They can't tell us who we're supposed to hate and who we're supposed to love and who we're supposed to send our children out to kill.
Well, my advice to mothers and fathers around the country, do everything you can to stop your kids from joining the military today. And by my advice to people in the military and the people, contemplating going to the military, don't. If you're in the military, don't re-up. My son didn't. He bought the stuff after 9/11, and right after high school, he enlisted. Thank God, everything turned out okay, and he didn't re-enlist. Now he understands what's going on. And I think everybody's got to understand this. If you don't enlist, if you refuse to go into the military, they're going to have the next step is they're going to have to have a draft. If they have a draft, this country will be taken down. I don't mean taken down that it's going to be finished for good. I mean, I think the government would actually
that'll
be
wake
removed
the American people up. If they bring back the draft, that's going to wake up the American people. That's really what launched the anti-Vietnam War movement when they brought back the draft. Prior to that, it had all been, recruits. But when they started that draft, that's when everybody woke up and said, okay, this has gone on far enough.
I think it would make the draft, the draft protests of the 60s, though, and the early 70s, look like a Sunday school picnic this time. I think there would be incredible riots. Young people are not that stupid anymore. They have tons of information today. Most of them, the people who would be draft age, if they do not get their news from the corporate media, they get it online from various places, and they're not going to buy this stuff. I really don't believe they're going to buy this stuff. I mean, there's so much good stuff you can find out online. I was watching recently the Duran. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're from Greece, but they're really excellent. They show the truth about Russia pretty much. And by the way, the Russians are doing very well, thank you, despite the sanctions, from what I gather. And you just get so much more truth online on various than you do from just listening to you guys. You know, just listening to your show.
Thank
I
you.
mean, we're not buying this stuff. People are not buying this stuff, and especially the younger people. They're not going to. You want us to drag them into the military, force them into the military to fight a war, fight wars that we know are BS? No, I think it's not going to happen. Of course, the worst case scenario is we do get into it with Russia, and if draft doesn't matter, there might not be a planet left. But let's hope to God that doesn't happen. Thank God, Putin actually seems to be a level-headed guy who does think about things like that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
He understands there'd be no winner and no loser in this, only all losers, you know?
Yep.
So, but other than that, we'll get another war like in Iran and, or you know, Syria or whatever else like that to get bogged down. No, if you don't have enough people joining, they have to go to a draft. And once you go to a draft, forget it. The place is going to come apart. Plain and simple.
Well, I noticed, you know, one of the things they were trying to do was use the illegal immigrants to bolster the Army ranks by saying, you know, if you'll sign up for the Army, we'll get you a green card. But what I predicted was going to happen happened. They weren't motivated soldiers, and the program has now been discontinued.
It'd be kind of like the mercenaries the British used to fight the you know, the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though they were considered good soldiers, they had no motivation. They had no motivation to fight for Britain other than money.
Yes.
And they, you know, and they folded. The what do you call the Hessians, for instance?
Yes.
That's you know, and that's you're not going to get people from another country to go fight your wars. It ain't going to do it. It's not going to happen. The Romans found that out at the end of the empire too. That's what the Romans tried to do, and you know what happened to them.
Yep.
So, all right. Anyway, okay, I hope you guys had a good weekend, you know?
We did, and thank you.
We did. Mostly we slept and watched a lot of TV. We were able to get out yesterday and drive up to the North Shore. Claire's back is definitely doing better. She's impatient to stop being a patient.
Yes.
But we were able to get on out. Anyway, listen, we're going to take one more commercial break here, and we'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, final segment of our program on this Labor Day. And Claire, you have another story for us.
This comes from the Department of You Cannot Possibly Make This Stuff Up. Chicago protesters are hoping to shut down O'Hare Airport over gun violence. And they're planning to march on a section of the Kennedy Expressway near O'Hare International Airport at noon, I believe this coming Monday. The third such attempt to disrupt a major city roadway since July and to shut down to the access to the airport. And the organizer, Reverend Gregory Livingston, Reverend, what were you thinking? What in the world were you thinking? You're probably going to be generating so much road rage that you will cause a gun incident to happen if someone has a gun in their car. I mean, come on. It's useless. It's ridiculous. What's going to stop the gun violence is, number one, taking the profit completely out of the drugs, which are a major cause of it. And, take the money away from the cartel. That's what's going to do it.
Yeah, but then you're going up against the CIA. I mean, Chicago is held up as the model of gun control.
Yeah.
Very, very tight gun control in Chicago. It's not working. Yeah. Everywhere that you have tight gun control, whether it's Chicago or Baltimore, the gun violence keeps on going up. Part of it is economic. The people of Chicago, they're engaging in crime out of desperation because there are no more jobs.
Yeah. And this is going to do nothing other than cause people to get more upset. And I don't understand how he thought this was going to have a causative effect against the violence going on when it shutting down the road to the airport is not shutting down the gun violence. He can't do it that way.
Nope.
It takes a logical approach.
I think he's just trying to get his 15 minutes of fame here.
Yeah. And
we talked about that
one. We talked about that one. Okay.
Let's see.
Well, what is on your talking points list?
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Right now, teenage abuse of Xanax is skyrocketing across America. Which, of course, is highly profitable for the pharmaceutical industries. But they're handling these things out like candy at the doctors. And the director of adolescent addiction treatment at Boston Children's Hospital, Sharon Levy, said that the use of Xanax among adolescents has skyrocketed, and kids are being sent to the hospital for withdrawal from the drug, which can cause seizures.
Good Lord.
But it makes money, and as long as it makes money, they're going to put it out there. And the other problem is that some of these kids are mixing the Xanax with opioids and alcohol, which can be fatal.
Oh, yeah. It can stop you breathing.
It absolutely could. Yeah. And again, our medical industrial complex has turned into a racket. And it all goes back to Richard Nixon. Did you know that before 1973, it was illegal to make a profit off of medical care? And Nixon changed that all with the Health Maintenance Organization Act.
Yep.
All right, there's the music. Time for us to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. We will be back tomorrow here on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Please take what you learned here, share it with everybody that you know. Have a safe remainder of Labor Day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Aloha, America.
Yeah.